crafty friends, this is Jenny from CraftTestDummies.com, and today I thought it'd be fun if maybe we made a card together. As some of you know, I picked up some new stamps and dies recently, and I wanted to show you how I was using them along with some watercolors to make a mess and make a card. So I thought maybe you'd like to play along with me today. Okay, so now I'm going to do my little trick of speeding it up so you can just watch my hands move, and we'll go through this a little faster. I'm using a white Stampin' Up! Craft pad, and this is one of the two best white stamp pads I found, so I really love it. So I went ahead and I stamped up this image, and this is called Abstract, and I'll put a link in the description so you can see it. I ink it up really well, and then the next thing I'm going to do is emboss it. And I'm using a clear embossing powder because that's what I have, but you could use any combination of white stamp pads and white or clear embossing ink that you happen to have lying around. So now I'm gonna go ahead and heat it up and make sure that it is all nice and melty and clean up my surface. Now, what we're gonna do here is make some watercolors. Now, I've got a combination of the liquid metallics and then the dry Colorburst watercolors that I'm using, but you can use any watercolors that you have. Koi's are great, those Ganzai Tambi ones are awesome, but use what you've got. So I'm just kind of making my own here, adding pigment and water to make my own watercolors. All right, now the next step I find to be really important. Make sure you tape down your paper. Now, by the way, I am using a heavyweight watercolor paper, but you want to make sure that you wet the surface down completely to get this nice juicy wet on wet look, which is why you want to tape it down, because it'll start to curl up at some point and then it'll puddle all wrong. So I am just adding little drops of watercolor into those puddles of water that I made with my mister. And this is the part that is so calming and relaxing. I'm just literally dipping and then letting those colors kind of spread and move. It's very meditative. You can really have fun with your color choices. I went with a metallic pink along with my metallic purple and my teal and my aqua and a little bit of green. So just kind of keep adding and dabbing the colors so that they're as saturated and as mixy as you want them to be. Now when you're about to be done, if you want, you can pick up the paper, still tape down and kind of move it around a little bit to get it to bleed and blend a little more, in which case, make sure that you tape it down to something like a cutting board or some heavy cardstock or something like that. So anyways, finish doing your dabba and then let it dry. Okay, so then for this next portion, I wanted to make a embellishment for my card. So I used my Xyron and I applied adhesive to a piece of watercolor cardstock. This was just kind of a scrap that was lying around. Then I burnished down some Thermoweb deco foil, and this is a holographic, super duper sparkly holographic foil. I'll link to it down in the description area, because then once you run it through your die cut machine, you get these great sparkly embellishments. Now, this is the Diamonds die cut set from My Favorite Things, and I did that for the detail part. Then I went ahead and I did the kind of bigger shape, which has little embossed marks on it, out of this Vertigo material. And by the way, that is from Imagine Crafts, and I'll link to that too. So then to combine the two, I run it through my little Xyron again and just add the sparkly holographic detail on top of the Vertigo base. And I use the Xyron because it's so easy to just run it through and make it apply instantly. If you have little spider webs, that's okay. You can kind of pull those off by using the backing paper, or go with it, which is what I do, and then add a little bit of glitter on top as well. Now your embellishment is just super extra sparkly. Okay, so now I'm going to layer everything up for the card front, and I'm using this microfine glitter paper. You can use whatever color cardstock coordinates with the watercoloring that you did, but I just wanted to add a little more sparkle. And I'm applying some scrapbook adhesive runner to the back and kind of layering it all up with a piece of white heavy-duty cardstock. I particularly like the One Sheet Wonder cardstock because it is so heavy and substantial, and it'll hold all these layers and really give it some substance to it. So now the next thing is to apply more adhesive onto the watercolor cardstock, which I've trimmed to size. If you do this right, you might get a couple of cards out of one sheet too. And then just layering it up. Now you could again use any kind of adhesive that you like. I like a dry adhesive because then things don't warp and curl. So now let's add the sentiment. And I'm using the sentiment that came with the Diamonds set, and I stamped it with StazOn on vellum. Now I made this choice because I wanted to continue to see the watercolor underneath. I mean, I spent all that time watercoloring it. I didn't want to cover it up. So I wanted to use the vellum, and I think that, you know, we kind of forget how great vellum is sometimes. So again, I just kind of measured it with my thumbnail. I'm using a little bit of clear tape, and this is a double-sided adhesive to adhere it. In retrospect, I probably should have put the whole thing through the Xyron again, just because that way you don't really see the tape marks underneath, and I don't have to worry about covering it up with something else. But anyway, you make the choice that you make when you make it. So I went ahead and adhered that on and just kind of burnished it down, and I think it's pretty, you know, it works out pretty well. And then I went ahead and I applied my embellishment that I made using a Gluber, and that's a Gluber. It's a double-sided clear adhesive. I'm going to tell you that after I let this set for a while, that Vertigo film was really kind of curved and it kept pulling away. So then I went ahead and I just shored it up a little bit using some instant clear dots material that I had. But you can use any kind of adhesive that you like that will hold the plastic down, and I just wanted something that gave it a little bit more dimension too, so I like that. Now for the inside of the card, I'd used some of those watercolors, actually what was just left over in the little jar, on some Yupo. Now Yupo is polypropylene. The only thing I don't like about Yupo is that, you know, you lose that vibrancy of the watercolors, but again, it kind of gives it like a more gentle pastel effect. So I stamped again using the StazOn on the Yupo and the watercolor, and I'm just going to adhere that to the inside using more of my score tape. Can't get enough score tape, people. I just absolutely love it. So once you adhere that, you can add another little embellishment on the inside too. And for that one, I just stamped on a piece of heavy cardstock with my StazOn and then used a little bit of watercolor to fill it in. I just fussy cut it with my scissors because it's so small. But I find that when you put the two together, kind of those fancy holographic ones with the little hand-colored one, it looks really nice together. And basically that finishes off the inside. So there you go. Here's one more look at the cards I made. I even went ahead and made a few extra things. I made some extra cards and tags out of the materials I had left over. I hope you enjoyed this little play along with me. If you did, please like it, subscribe. If you need any information about the products, it's in the description area. And as always, have a crafty day.